I won't lie, my Fairfield's going to look like 500 other Fairfields. But for some people, that's a comfort.
Mm-hmm.
They know what they're walking into, and we're going to deliver exactly what they expect.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you, there's something special too about brands. When we've been the number one Fairfield, we've been tied with like 45 other Fairfields. We
Mm.
weren't just the number one Fairfield. We're we and 44 others are the number one Fairfield.
Mm.
That's happened in 5 different categories many times when I've been a GM. And so I can tell you there is a lot of really strong branded properties that follow all those instructions. I mean, I could tell you in terms of Fairfields, there's definitely 44 others that work as hard as I do. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Welcome back to the Hospitality Hacks Pro Show, where we talk about interesting topics in and around the industry, as well as talk to interesting people in and around culinary arts and hospitality, giving you tips, tricks, and tidbits to help your operations run smoother. Today, I'm super honored to have a friend of the show on, someone that I met recently, a friend of a friend of a friend, which is awesome. I love the internet. I love networking and meeting new people, but y'all know how I do. I love for my guests to introduce themselves. So I'm going to kick it over to you, sir. Say hello and introduce yourself to the people.
My name's Dylan Beaumont. I am the general manager of the Fairfield by Marriott in Eugene, Oregon. I've worked in hotels for 23 years, and I'm happy to be here. I definitely follow along to the Hospitality Hacks Pro show on YouTube, and I do have a pleasure of stealing a bit of knowledge from it and sharing it with the people who follow me on social media too. I'm really happy with what you've done. So congratulations, Tasha, on what you've done thus far. It's been great.
Thank you so much. You have definitely been a valued friend of the show and an awesome supporter. I can't tell you, sometimes people are in the background and like, yeah, go, 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 and cheering you on. And then you have those people that go the extra mile and really, really show you their support and not just lip service. And you're one of those people. And so just know that I deeply appreciate you sharing the content and commenting and for being a subscriber. And again, truly honored to have you on. But I really want to dig into how you got to where you are today. 23 years in the industry, you said?
Mm-hmm.
That is incredible. That is incredible. So how did it all begin? Kind of take us through your journey there.
I was leaving a job and I knew I needed to apply for another job when I was very young and had probably not turned 20 yet. Was 19 years old, and I walked into a hotel and I applied for a job, and I was called the same day, and I accepted a part-time afternoon shift, and that eventually ended up being all those other positions that have accumulated over time: trainers and auditors, and night managers, and general managers, and front office managers, and eventually running hotels.
So what was your very first position? What were you doing?
Was doing a part-time afternoons at a Comfort Suites in Fresno, California, and it was a walk-in application. I People ask, did you choose hospitality or did hospitality choose you? I guess hospitality chose me because I didn't pursue it. I didn't study it. Envisioned that I'd be a curator of a museum or a history teacher, something of that nature, because I studied history. I studied political science. I wasn't looking for the hospitality bug that bit me.
And it is truly that way. Everyone that I talk to that's been in the industry for a while is like, yep, it's once it's in you, it's in you. Once it gets a hold of you, it's hard to shake loose. So you started part-time nights. You said you had a passion more so for history and things of that nature, political science, which is interesting to me. How does that help you any in dealing with people and in that front facing role of interacting with people on the daily?
I think, if anything, it gives you a better sense of the world. If you've studied history, if you studied political science, I think it helps you open minds. And then when you're dealing with guests, you have some perspective of where they're coming from, what their background might be like, and maybe it even helps you develop some sensitivities to it. I think the more you've studied our world, the more open-minded you are dealing with people of different cultures, and the better it makes you at the art of hospitality. It's because you're going to see somebody across from you that could be from any race, any religion, from any culture. And if you have some attachment, some in mind of what that culture is like, you're more relatable to that person. So my studies, I think it really helped me to be more open-minded. You always see people will say the last names that are like the most common last name from another country wrong, and you cringe a little bit because, like, oh, if you read a book, you kind of know how that's pronounced, you know. So I think building up sensitivity and knowledge of people from around the world definitely helps you in hospitality. And I feel I had that advantage going in. I was kind of the type of kid when I was growing up that my grandparents wanted me to study every continent, every country. They wanted me to know about different cultures. Where I'd be studying like ancient Egypt at, like, 6 years old. That's how my family raised me. Is they wanted me to know all these things about the world. And if any benefit I took from it, it's the availability to put a like history and a relationship behind the people I'm dealing with, and be sensitive to it.
You said a lot of good things there. One of the things that jumped out at me, you said the art of hospitality,
Absolutely.
which it truly is an art form to it. And then especially speaking to what you said about people from different cultures and backgrounds and things of that nature. It's an art to not only just respecting people and their point of view and perspective where they come from, but weaving that together, even in dealing with a team, because you are definitely in a leadership position. Can you speak to me about that? Like before we get there, I'm jumping ahead of myself because I'm excited you're on. But before we get there, how did you transition into a leadership role? So you started as a nighttime crew member. Was there a particular person that encouraged you, mentored you, or was it something that just progressed and happened over time?
I
Walk me
will
through
tell
that.
you, I was always that worker that people were like, you need to take this next position. I was always that worker that was frightened of that next position. And everyone knew I was outperforming but my position. I had owners and general managers giving me their tasks at night, and I'd knock them out with pride. But that's not appropriate. You can't be working overnights doing ownership work. You need to push to the boundaries of what your comfort zone is. It took me a while. And shame on me for not realizing what I realized today is when someone tabs you and they grab you and they're saying, hey, I trust you with this next level position. I'm encouraging you because I want you to step into that room, and you're accepted in that room. You're scared to go in that room. You're scared to take that seat. But they wouldn't be commissioning you for that unless they knew you would succeed. And they wouldn't be doing it unless they planned on helping you along the way. So one of the things that I was at fault for early on in my hospitality career took me a long time to accept bigger positions out of fear. And I didn't realize that so often that the people who are promoting you and who are delegating these tasks to you and wanting you to step up, they're not doing it because they want you to fail. They're not doing it to increase your fear. They're doing it because they know you can do it. They're doing it because they're ready for you to take that next step, and they're ready to back you. And so for me, if someone came to me today and said to me, I want to start off at your desk, but I really want to learn this career. You've got me. I'm your resource. I'm going to mentor you. I'm going to help develop everything you need to take that seat. Not because I want you to have greater fear and anxiety, but because I want you to have that career. I mean, there's no benefit to taking the knowledge I have with me when I eventually retire. Not if I'm not passing it on.
Yeah, I hear that. And I second that. Where do you think the source of that fear came from? Do you think it was fear of the unknown, or that you couldn't do the job? Because I've encountered that as well when I was in a managerial role of identifying somebody like, hey, you're great. Why aren't you applying to be a shift supervisor or a floor manager, or trying to push them and grow them? And they're like, no, I'm okay where I am. Where do you think that comes from?
being complacent, being in that comfort zone, and feeling like, okay, I don't want to break my status quo. But
Mm,
we're meant to break our status quo.
mm-hmm.
We're not meant to be complacent and stay in our comfort zone, because you're never going to be more successful unless you do. If you even think about it from an income perspective, that being complacent is not changing your income. So if
Mm,
you look at your bills and your bills cause you anxiety, not challenging that role you're in is actually not challenging the role you're in life,
mm-hmm.
because the bills are going to keep coming, and they're
Oh,
going
for
to get
sure.
bigger, and they're going to have interest. And so over time, the best thing you can do is look for the tangible things in stepping up that you can grab onto and succeed. But also know that there's people there. I've had several businesses reach out to me. I'm just a general manager, but if businesses reach out to me for advice, I've had other people in hospitality, up to directors of food and beverage from a major hotel in India, reach out to me and said, I don't know what I'm doing. I've got you. I'm honored to take the mentoring role. To me, it's so fulfilling, because if I can give you advice, and most of the time, the truth is, most of the time when somebody comes to you for advice, they already know the answer. They just need you to give them a bit of prompting, and the bit of grabbing their hand and helping them a bit step forward. They knew what the steps were they needed to take. They just need someone to tell them.
Need that confirmation, the catalyst push them forward, huh? Yeah, I can see that. I find that to be true as well. Find that to be true as well. So interesting. So you start as part time, and then there are people seeing your potential, prompting you to do more. A
For
little
years.
hesitant at first. Yeah, okay, hesitant
Years.
for some years, and then finally you're like, you know what? Let's do this thing, right?
What
So how
happened is,
long
so
have you?
I was at
Go ahead.
a luxury resort
Mm-hmm.
in Central California, and the resort didn't have many personnel with hotel experience. Now, I had hotel experience, but
Mm-hmm.
I was fearful of stepping up in position. Well, then I'm in a role where this business needs to know what I know in order to develop as a business. So now I'm in a role where the information I hold in my mind is valuable to helping this business, function, from day one to day two. And that was naturally progression for me. Sharing what I knew, helping them understand what was missing, because there was very simple things like the credit card terminal was built for and set for car rentals. And I realized that really early on. I was like, okay, you're authorizing way too much money on these people's cards. And I was showing them how to fix this, and they were like, wow, that's like magical. To me, that was just something I did. It's just something I knew. But there wasn't the personnel there. And so I stepped into that role to be a manager for the first time, because my knowledge was needed.
Mm-hmm.
And then I grew on in the job. I grew in a leadership role on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I was young, but I was still able to. Every day was like a lesson for me,
Mm.
and it helped me to develop into a better and better manager.
Man, that's such an important idea of not undervaluing what you know and what you bring to the table.
Absolutely.
And then at the same time, in the same breath, you're learning lessons every day and expanding and becoming a better manager. So it's not like, oh, I know everything, but I'm going to bring what I do know at the same time, still learning, growing, and building myself. I mean, that's just so key. That's so key right there. You dropping
And at the
gems.
same time, for me, this was a luxury environment, and I had came from an economy hospitality environment. I knew the industry, but there was a lot of growing to do. When you go to different segments, just as you have with dining, there's so much nuance,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to identify all the different practices to be successful at that stage. And so there's so much learning of just the mannerisms that go with a different tier of hospitality, an extremely high tier of hospitality.
Mm-hmm.
And those were a lot of lessons I was taking in day by day. And there was a lot of imposter syndrome,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't the kid who grew up with a lot of three-piece suits, and yet I was surrounded by those kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was surrounded by people who grew up with the full suit. And when the first time I got a suit, I mean, you're talking about going to like a warehouse and getting the $90 suit because that's what I could afford. And
Mm-hmm.
so for me, it did feel like imposter syndrome for quite a while until I felt I was showing my knowledge and living the role. And it's hard to still have imposter syndrome when day in and day out you're fulfilling the promise of the role.
Fulfilling the promise. Let's go. So, talk to me about the differences. What are some of the key differences coming from an economy environment to a luxury environment? Because I think I know from staying in some hotels and stuff, but from the inside, what do you think are the main key differences there in those environments?
How particular people can be, because
Mm,
you have different standards. So when
mhm,
someone's staying in economy, they know that they're going into an economy hotel. Their expectations are associated with the economy hotel. When someone's staying at luxury, they may have stayed at any luxury tier hotel, 4 and 5 star, and they could have the expectations of the previous place they were at, and those expectations can be incredibly high. So the expectations, anticipation of what they're offered, it changes drastically with the tiers.
mhm,
So when you've come from economy, you know hospitality, but you have to be even more careful with your wording in a luxury setting.
mm,
There's a greater degree of reverence that you're showing and respect that you're showing, and the tolerance for being too casual is pretty minimal. So you learn really quickly that the standards are incredibly high.
mm. Okay. What would you say has been your favorite place or environment to work? So and also take me through how many different places have you been? Has it been like, oh, you found a home and just kind of stuck there, or have you been in a lot of different environments and places?
I worked at 6 hotels in 23 years. So
Okay.
if I saw that on a resume, that's probably a person I would want to hire because they're not going to go anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
I am that type of person. I have some workplace monogamy going on here.
Okay.
So for me here in the my current job, I really enjoy. I really enjoy Fairfield. I enjoy Marriott. I enjoy the workers I have right now a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that plays a big role in how I feel. I mean, I enjoyed luxury hospitality because every day was a challenge, and today I have um, different. There's different challenges in a Fairfield as opposed to a luxury hotel. But for me, I enjoy the challenges the Fairfields provide currently. We see just more of a Marriott standards as opposed to people's expectations and anticipation in a luxury setting. People then in a Marriott standard setting, they're comparing you to other Marriotts. If you're in a luxury independent hotel, they're comparing you to any other luxury hotel.
Mm,
That's a hard road.
mm.
Um, in a Fairfield, you could get compared to a Courtyard, a Town Place Suites, a Spring Hill. It is actually a bit easier in all honesty.
Okay. It's so important to enjoy where you work and the people that you work with. I mean, whew, if listeners, viewers, if you're in a position to enjoy where you work, everyone isn't. So feel blessed. What would you say is your biggest challenge to date? What has been something that's made you maybe uneasy to sleep at night or scratching your head trying to figure out, how do I approach this thing?
With everybody, I would say COVID was a pretty incredible challenge. I was working 16 hours a day because we were forced to have minimal staff.
Mm-hmm.
You weren't going to get staff anyway. People did not want to be in a front facing job. They had to worry about their health.
Mm-hmm.
If you're talking about a gamble for people between their health and their job, and there was another source of income, for example, they're probably going to choose the other source of income. You can't expect someone's going to choose against their health. And that's what we were asking for when we were hiring during COVID. So it wasn't uncommon for those of us who were department heads to be taking a vast majority and lion's share of the hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us, physically, we were out here day in and day out, putting an enormous toll on our bodies. And that was a long time. And it's just been recently, I'd say in the last year,
Mm-hmm.
um, that things have been really calming down in terms of staffing and being able to have retention. Because during COVID, it wasn't uncommon that someone would be sick and not come back. And
Mm-hmm.
we had to get adjusted to that. And then
Mm-hmm.
filling that position may or may not happen. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone didn't come back and you were on AM shift and you were looking for a PM shift, if they weren't available, then you were PM shift.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
We're not meant to work like that. That's not
Right.
healthy. So we did it. We make business work. It's a point of privacy. Don't think I'm saying I want everybody to take that badge of courage, because it honestly is not the best thing for you. Hopefully, we don't face that again. And I am so proud of the people who made hotels work. You had so many utility players. Same with restaurants. You had restaurants that were minimal crew if they stayed open,
Mm-hmm.
if they survived. You have so many
Mm-hmm.
restaurants that were niche, didn't exist after COVID. And so those workers who made the business go from point A to point B and still exist, they really actually sustained that business to be what it is today. Otherwise, it was closed. So I had workers that definitely stepped up and they took commitments on that I wouldn't even ask of them today, and I feel I still owe them.
So in reflecting, I've kind of discovered the power of reflection in the sense of not necessarily personal reflection, but in relation to work over the past 2 years. Just like really sitting and saying, okay, I did ABC 1, 2, 3. Let me just sit still and think about how did those actions did it turn out the way that I wanted? How did those actions affect other people? Was the lesson really learned, or do I need to circle back and try to communicate a different way, right? And especially with dealing with high school kids, it's like attention span is so short. So what can I do? How can I tweak this here, there, to make it really hit home? So when you reflect kind of over your career, if you would change anything or could change one thing, what would it be?
That's a good question. I think I would have stepped up to management sooner, and I wouldn't have been as scared of the offers for promotion, because I didn't realize that these things are in your best interest. And I didn't allow myself to trust people offering. I think I was too focused on my own complacency, and I was too focused on my comfort zone. And I could have done a lot better if I trusted those people who are promoting my talents and wanting me to take up the next step. And I didn't. I
Mm-hmm.
could have done earlier, and probably been in maybe even a different place than I am currently. But I'm really proud of where I am now, and I really enjoy my job. But I do think I could have taken some steps a little earlier.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate you. So if you're talking to the young hospitality professional, up and coming person who's trying to figure it out, like where do I fit? What should I try? Like I know I may want to be in this space. I enjoy people. I enjoy, certain things I've seen or experience I've had. I enjoy it, but I don't really know where to go next. I don't really know what to do next. What would be your 2 cents, your bit of advice to that young professional about how they should think about next steps in their career?
I think you should try everything. Like if you're interested and you're not sure about, say you want to be in hospitality but you're not sure what segment, work some shifts in a restaurant and you'll know either you're bit by that bug and you
Mm-hmm.
feel it, or you feel like, oh, this is incredibly fast paced. I'm not addicted to this feel. But there's sometimes people are in that environment and they are addicted to that feel. They're feeling that they're taking those dishes out, they're thriving off the moment, they're living off that moment and that energy. Because there's an energy in restaurants. It's absolutely there. between front of house and back of house. When I was at Dolphin Bay Resort and Residences, and we had a Lido restaurant, and when I was called down to the restaurant for anything, the environment, the ambiance changed from my hotel office. It was absolutely different. And it is absolutely enthralling and addictive. But if you don't feel that, it's probably not for you. But if you feel hospitality's for you, there's no shortage of places to go. So you have golf courses and clubs and cruise ships. I mean, this even museums provide hospitality. It's your ability to relate to people and show them service and give them a feeling that they're walking away from your environment, memorizing and feeling like, okay, that made me feel something. It gave me an impression. I want to go back there.
Yeah, I'm gonna add that to my talking points when I talk to my students. I've never thought to think about museums in that light, but that's absolutely spot on. That's spot on. And we just actually catered an event that was at a museum as well. And so sometimes in the PM hours, they do other things too inside of those event spaces, museums, things of that nature. So I'm definitely gonna add that in. I like that. I
I
like that a
definitely
lot.
think so.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So what is on your plate? What are you think GM is where your sweet spot, or is there something else you're aspiring to, or what's next for you?
At the moment, this is a wonderful place to be. I have no complaints.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. 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 And are you all, I imagine you're hiring, always hiring? Are you
Only
hiring
one
right now?
position to hire for at the moment, so not a bad place to be in.
Very nice. Very good. What do you look for when you are interviewing, or your team is interviewing to hire someone on? What are the top qualities that you're searching for in that next team member?
Everything's different. Right now, things are very different because our standards of yesteryear aren't our standards of today.
Hmm.
We're not looking for somebody with hotel experience. If someone comes from a different industry, we need to welcome them
Mm-hmm.
because we had people from hospitality are welcomed in all sorts of different industries during COVID. So it's not the same standards at all. Everything has changed. So what we're looking at today is who can fulfill the job, but not has the prerequisites that we used to ask for people who knew our software. That's terrible. We could do better. We need to look for people who can fulfill the functions of the job, but not necessarily having done the exact job in the past.
Mm, that's powerful. I I used to say that when people would ask me that question, when I was in a position to interview people, it's like, well, do you have any questions? A question that will always pop up was, well, what are you looking for, right? Which is kind of a canned question, but still something that's vital to communicate, I think. And so my feeling was always, I'm looking for the things that I cannot teach, right? So to your point, you can teach somebody your software. You can teach somebody how to press buttons or cash someone out, or, fill out a form, something of that nature. But that ability to connect with people, right? Or even the desire to connect with people, I can't necessarily teach that part,
Right.
right? Right.
You
And
want to see
so,
that friendliness. You want to see somebody who has a great smile. You want to
mhm,
see somebody who can reach out to the person across from them and relate to them,
mhm,
and have a bit of a personality. It can
mhm,
be engaging.
mhm,
Um, there's things that you can't train for, and those are the things that should inherently be in the candidate you're looking for. Uh, but your software, you definitely can train somebody for. Your
mhm.
procedures, you can definitely train somebody for. You shouldn't actually tell somebody, "I need 3 years of hotel experience before I hire you." That's terrible. Not a good choice.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Okay. So I'm always trying to look forward, right? And so when you think about the future of the hospitality industry and the future of hotels, especially with short-term rentals being all the rage for the last few years and different things of that nature, a lot of entrepreneurs popping up in that space. Where do you see the future of the space? Do you feel, and I always, anytime I encounter somebody who works in a hotel environment, I always ask this because I'm super curious, but do you feel that there will always be a space for hotels? Are you feeling that pressure, that heat from maybe the short-term rental or Airbnb space? What are your thoughts around that?
I think the Airbnb space has been around long enough that we already know that hotels will exist. So it's kind of been already established that that's not going to end the practice of people staying night to night in a hotel. There's different expectations. Like if you stay in a hotel, you're looking to have some of your basic needs taken care of. You're looking to have provisions. If you're staying in Airbnb, you're bringing your provisions with you. Like your basic amenities, you're going to bring those with you. In a hotel, those amenities are provided for you. So it depends on what your needs are. If you're staying for a week and you're staying like in a vacation spot, you may choose an Airbnb. If you choose something that you have enough independence so you can make it work on your own. But in that same vacation spot, if you want to take your worries away and you want to have more of those functions taken care of for you, as opposed to being independent and crafting your own schedule, your own amenities, and your own meals, then a hotel setting and a resort setting is ideal.
Mm.
So it's a mindset difference.
Mm.
It's if you're looking for something where so much of the experience is going to be a pampered experience, if you will, it's going to be something that's appealing to your sense of less anxiety, less worries, less complications, less planning. A resort setting is ideal. But if you're a planner and you have a sense of independence and you can handle all those aspects on your own and you want to seek out your own dining spots, your own adventures, then Airbnb space would be, I'll make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's a threat necessarily to hotels. I mean, if you think about it, I believe Vrbo is owned by Expedia, and I don't think Expedia wants hotels to fail anytime soon. They're not going to want to raise 50% of their revenue.
Right, right. Yeah, they're dipping into both pots there. So
Right.
yeah,
And
which
as is most companies at this point.
right.
Most of Marriott has Marriott Vacations, and everybody is doing the rental and residences. So it's all these companies have realized that we want to be involved in both. We want revenue from both streams.
Mm-hmm.
And the more that happens, the more it's you're seeing a meshing of those two worlds, the more they're both going to survive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. And so I'm also interested to know, um, from working in the restaurant space is very different when you work for a corporate chain or parent company that has preset expectations versus maybe an independent restaurant that there's maybe a little bit more flexibility to be creative or do something outside of the box. Do you feel that that translates to the hotel space as well? Um, is there room for kind of bringing your ideas, your creativity, or is it more so, hey, these are standard operating procedures, don't deviate from this set of procedures?
It's a really good question. Really good question. So your difference is you're going to see more creativity and originality in an independent property. However, I want to say this about branded properties. We're held to such requirements. To open a branded property, they're mapping out all your routes of egress in case there's a fire. They're checking every permit that you could have, every type of insurance. They're inspecting every aspect of that building. And not just that, it extends to the standards of the resolution and the offerings of your television, the bandwidth of your internet, the amount of hangers in your closet. So if you're looking for consistency and
Mm-hmm.
you want a consistent experience, a brand new branded hotel, they had to open under that criteria. So they have to meet that criteria. So if you're going to a new city and you're just like wondering, where should I stay? I want to have a good experience that's guaranteed to not be a terrible offering. A brand new branded hotel has just had to pass all those hurdles.
Mm-hmm.
And it extends to incredible lengths, I can tell you. We have binders and binders of permits. And we're even as individuals, the management of a branded hotel, individual workers and managers have to hold distinct certifications. They have to go through coursework in cleanliness and leadership. You can't just have a hotel. Now, if you're independent, a lot of those, you have your city guidelines and requirements, you have your governmental requirements, and the legal statutes you have to abide by. But there's no one saying, in terms of service, in terms of every aspect of design, there's no one saying what that guideline has to be. So you're going to see more creativity, more originality, which is nice. You can even see, say, like a more distinct ambiance. I won't lie, my Fairfield's going to look like 500 other Fairfields. But for some people, that's a comfort. They know what they're walking into, and we're going to deliver exactly what they expect. And I can tell you, there's something special too about brands. When we've been the number one Fairfield, we've been tied with like 45 other Fairfields. We weren't just the number one Fairfield. We and 44 others are the number one Fairfield. That's happened in 5 different categories many times when I've been a GM. And so I can tell you, there is a lot of really strong branded properties that follow all those instructions. I mean, I could tell you in terms of Fairfields, there's definitely 44 others that work as hard as I do. And I think that's pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. I never thought about that. The number of hangers in the closet is even.
Okay. No, I want to say this, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to my department heads, because my chief engineer, Roan, is brilliant. He's a brilliant engineer. My executive housekeeper is a certified executive. She has 2 years of bookwork that represents the certification that's on her wall. And she could tell you exactly what fabric, it goes at exactly what temperature, and with exactly which laundering chemical at all times. So I'm blessed to have that talent behind me that allows me to be relaxed. So any accomplishment that I have, like any of the certifications I hold, they hold a part of too, because they've allowed me to be as successful as I am.
That's so key. So key. The power of the team around you, and that working together to reach for greatness. Super key. Super key.
I'll tell you, having department heads that care about their department, and even more so that study what they do, I'm truly blessed. When my chief engineer comes to me and he has a part he needs ordered, we have a moment where we geek out researching that part. And when it comes in, if you get a new motor that comes in, we like admire the quality of the craftsmanship of a brand new motor. It is a complete geek moment in my office where we're sitting there with this hardware and we're just watching it like, this is incredible. Look at this. Look at that. It's nice to be surrounded by people who take their job as seriously as they do. And they're great people and they're fun, but they're professionals. And I'm honored that they're here with me because they've made my job so much easier. The quality of my executive housekeeper reflects in her department, and it makes me look good.
Man, I was talking to a coworker just last week about this very topic. We were talking about, I won't name names, but someone kind of in our upline, so to speak, that we report to, and how it's just interesting, the lack of communication, and we struggle. It's it's difficult. And it's not somebody I have to see every day necessarily, but it's like when I need certain things, I have to go through this person. And it's like, well, why wouldn't you support the people who are going to make you look good? Like support the people, and lift them up and give them what they need and makes your job easier. Like to me, that's common sense. But as they say, common sense is not common. So I don't know. I don't know. But I'm gonna ask one more question and then I'm gonna let you know because I know you have a hotel to run. But I want to ask you this. When you travel, when you're able to get away, what's one of your favorite places to stay?
I travel more so for destination than hotel.
Okay.
So when I travel, I tend to like things that I or places that attach to memories. So I
Mm.
love San Francisco. I love how that in San Francisco, in the morning time, throughout the year, that fog rolls in over the water, and you can wear a sweatshirt in the morning time, a hoodie in summertime. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love walking towns where you have attractions and small shops, and every neighborhood has nice ethnic diners. That's fantastic. Just being able to wander and then
Mm-hmm.
build your experience while you're wandering. Yeah, I love that type of experience. But in terms of hotels, in
Mm-hmm.
terms of places I stay, for me, I can't really relax too much. I think too much in hotels because it's what I think about.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to study hotels and I tend to study leadership. So I think those things always are close to the forefront of my mind. And it's definitely going to reflect if I see things that I want to tweak, for example. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hard to turn that nature off, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you know what I'm talking about because
I
I'm
do.
sure when you have a meal, you're
Yeah.
thinking, your mind's working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm, for sure. If the phone is ringing or, I see something on the floor or it's dust on the light fixtures or I'm looking at how the servers are interacting with other tables and it's something that just happens, I'm not like trying. So I understand 100% what you mean.
I can
I
tell you, so this, you probably relate to this. I'm the type of guy that if I go into the men's restroom and there's paper towels all over the floor, I want to do my deed and be on my way. I know instead I'm going to end up grabbing some paper towels and cleaning up those other paper towels. That's
mm-hmm,
going to happen because
mm-hmm,
it's instilled in who I am. We're in hospitality, but we're also in service,
mm-hmm,
and you can't let the next person see you and see, oh my gosh, he left all those paper towels on the floor. That is not happening.
mm-hmm,
And I also feel for that place, whether it's my business or not. I don't want somebody to have a bad experience. So that's getting cleaned up. Or if I go and if you have a sink that has water and soap all over it, and I see this so often, I'm going to grab a towel and I'm going to clean that sink. It's just me. It
mm-hmm,
is inherent in my nature. And it's the same in hospitality when we have workers that start to get that bug. If you're walking to your workplace and you see cigarette butts along your walk, you'll know which workers are invested in your property by who picks them up.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. Or if they're, yep, for sure. That used to be something that I would look for to when it came time for reviews and promotions and things of that nature. Who's going that just extra little above average, right? Who is picking up something off the floor? Who is smiling at someone, even if it's not your direct guest, because we take care of everyone that comes in the door, right? And or if we're walking and talking, are you keeping up with the pace? Of the person that you're walking with? Are you lagging behind? Like, are you putting forth that energy? Like all of those things definitely contribute and count for sure.
I'll
For
tell you,
sure.
you just hit on something that I love is when it's not your direct guest. For example, in a hotel setting, when you have housekeepers on the floor, when I see one of my housekeepers relate to a guest, speak to them, and give them a nice welcome, and that guest smile, if I even see it on camera or if I see it from the other side of the hallway, that will make my day. That is such a gift to me because
Mm-hmm.
I know that. So if they had a lapse in guest service at check-in or at breakfast, there's somebody who's delivering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping that everyone delivers. But when I see somebody who is not directly part of the guest check-in or checkout experience, bring that experience home,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a good thing when you see as a manager. Whether it's your breakfast attendant, where they talk to somebody or fill their coffee cup, and you see that guest is having a great breakfast experience, and that maybe that guest had a rough check-in experience,
Mm-hmm.
but the breakfast attendant brings that experience home, or my engineer, um, that's such a gift to us, and that's what you hope to instill in your staff is. And I know one of the biggest fears I have with a lot of my service personnel is, oh, I'm scared to use English. Then I'll tell you what the biggest thing is for me is when I catch them using English outside their comfort zone to greet that guest. I'm like, bless you. That's what we want. That's it right
Mm-hmm.
there. And
Mm-hmm.
I'll make sure that they know at the end of the day, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to see that. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know I can trust my hotel to my staff. And that stuff, I tell it doesn't go unnoticed.
Mm-hmm. Man, and that's such a significant part of effective leadership as well, is not only noticing but saying thank you to your team for making that delivery of service. So
Yeah,
without even
I
being
think
there,
it's
I can
also
feel
as
it.
important that our team know who we are. I mean, you talked about it is you can't be in your ivory tower forever. Every now and then, you need to go to that front line, be front
Mm-hmm.
facing,
Mm-hmm.
give them a little razzle dazzle, as Tasha says, and give them something to emulate. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
you came up on that journey, you know how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've found yourself correcting that worker a few times, maybe the right thing to do is do some checking alongside them, you know, wait some tables alongside them, wait the table next to them. Let them
Mm.
see how it's done. Show them a little
Mm.
razzle dazzle. Give them
Mm-hmm.
something to emulate.
Man, I don't know if we can end it better than that right there. That was good. That was some good sauce right there.
That's from you.
That's that's some good sauce right there.
I gotta say this. I love that every show I watch of yours, there's always a moment. And I hear once it starts, I know it's that moment. I'm like, here she goes. And you hit this lesson. And it's the counselor, it's the teacher in you. It's this moment you craft where you're teaching to the camera. And we're hearing it, and it's like, wow, that's it. It's poignant and it hits home. And I'll clip that and I will post it proudly because you want to make sure as many people as possible hear that because it's impactful. That's the teacher in you, and I love that stuff. I really genuinely do.
Man, like I said at the beginning, thank you so much for being a friend to the show and everything that you've done and sharing the message and commenting. And I, I can't thank you enough for that. That's what counts the most, really, for me is it's not the one-offs where somebody's like, "Oh, you doing a podcast? Oh, that's cool," right? But when someone continuously shows up and shows out, and I can tell just from talking to you that that leadership is bleeding through to your team, and I can't wait to come visit and stay at your hotel and feel some of that awesome service, that art of hospitality that you all are showing there. Do you have any last words to the viewing and listening audience that you would like to share?
No, I'm very thankful for you inviting me on. Keep doing the wonderful work that you're doing, and I really appreciate the fact that we've seen this transition where you've started the podcast, you've got your book out, you're going to begin a business kind of live in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so many cool things you're doing. Thanks for sharing with us.
My
I really
pleasure.
I appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And where can people find you? Said so. You said the city where you're at, but if someone's coming your way and they want to come stay, how should they reach out? How should they find you?
Yeah, Marriott.com/EUGFI. That's our website. Is how you get to the Fairfield Inn Suites in Eugene, Oregon. We're known as Tracktown USA. Almost all the major track and field events are here in Eugene, Oregon, and that's what a lot of what we cater to. We also have the University of Oregon 2 miles away, so we definitely take care of a lot of parents and students. And we're here. If you have passing through Oregon, I'd be happy to accommodate you.
There you go, folks. You know where to go for some top-notch hospitality. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you all for listening and watching the Hospitality Hacks Pro show. Hope you tune in next week for another episode. Don't even know what we're talking about, but just be here. Just come, just listen, just watch. And if there's something that you want to talk about, a guest that you think should be on the show, definitely reach out, and I'll see y'all next time.